Let's join Heather and our school psychologist, Lathyrelle Isler, as they talk about this week's high leverage practice.
Welcome to Little Bits of TLC, the podcast where we explore the dynamic world of education. Join our host, Heather Volchko, as this season we focus on high leverage practices, HLPs. Each episode will examine a different HLP, essential strategies designed to enhance teaching and improve outcomes across various educational settings. These practices focus on collaboration, assessment, social, emotional, behavioral support, and instruction, benefiting all K-12 students. I hope you're ready to be both challenged and inspired, because this season is all about mastering the HLPs. This is Little Bits of TLC. Looking for something that actually fits your life? TLC University is here for that. Each week, we spotlight something different. A webinar with real-world insights, a hangout-style interview, and a hands-on workshop or a Q&A where we answer your questions. It's flexible, it's self-paced, and most come with CEUs. So whether you're looking to grow, reflect, or just listen in, there's something here for you. And it's all in one place. university.thresholdlearning.org. That's where you'll find show notes, professional blogs, a full catalog of ACE-accredited courses, and downloadable resources. It all just keeps growing. So whether you're walking the dog, commuting, or taking a breather between the daily grind, TLC University meets you where you are. Head to university.thresholdlearning.org and check out what's new this week. See you then.
Interpret and communicate assessment information with stakeholders to collaboratively design and implement educational programs. Teachers interpret assessment information for stakeholders, like other professionals, families, and students, and involve them in the assessment, goal development, and goal implementation process. Special educators must understand each assessment's purpose, help key stakeholders understand how culture and language influence interpretation of data generated, and use data to collaboratively develop and implement individualized education and transition plans that include goals that are standards-based, appropriate accommodations and modifications, and fair grading practices, and transition goals that are aligned with student needs.
This week, we're talking about high leverage practice number 5, interpreting and communicating assessment information to collaboratively design and implement educational programs. And Lathyrelle, I know you have done this for the student level and the program level, and especially within Project Onward, you've been doing a lot of program development work. So for you, what does this practice look like?
For me, it's one of the things that you have to work with your whole team because you have different people that have specialties. Even with it being, it could be somebody that's a school psychologist working with somebody that is a special education teacher or a general education teacher, and somebody that knows the student very well, like a parent or caregiver. And then you also have the student who knows himself best. So it's very important for everybody to work together and use that information to, build a new or a very effective program. With that, all that information on top of that, you also need to look at your assessments because those assessments actually look at very particular information and it provides very concrete data for you to build upon the information for the student to do what's best for them. So the best thing to do is have all the members of the team together as well as have those people that are experts in each of those areas. So when you're interpreting that assessment, you want to make sure that everybody's on the same page. You want to make sure that everyone can understand the language. A lot of times assessments use a lot of specialized language for that particular area. And we want to make sure everybody understands what that means. And so you have to break it down for everyone. Remember, some of your family, some of your students, some of your other professionals may not have ever heard some of the terms you're using. So you have to make sure that everybody understands what you're talking about. Even if you need to go ahead and do all the technical language because you just have to get out the system, which I usually have to do, I then circle back and explain it again for someone who may not know what I just said. So I think it's very important that you have someone that knows how to interpret the assessments and communicate it so that everyone is on the same page. And then we can move forward with trying to design and implement an effective educational program for the student.
Well, I know you live in the world of a bunch of heavy tools that have lots of technical jargon. And you're also in the world of kind of interpreting those things to figure out what to do with programming. So I'm curious for you. I know when you write your reports, they're very technical, but when you're communicating it with people, it's so common. and it's so easy to understand what you're sharing versus what you've written. I'm curious, like, how do you do that? How do you kind of shift from that technical written to that more like common spoken in that presentation?
Experience. Took a lot of experience from that. I mean, I went into school psych not really knowing anything about testing. So it took a little bit of time and asking questions as well as, looking to the experts to, hey, can you explain this to me? I don't know what this means. I don't know that jargon. I came from mental health. So there's a little bit of disconnect. The other thing is you listen to the people that you work with, the families that you work with, the children and students and teachers that you work with, because those questions that they're asking you to explain, to clarify, those are some common questions that people have that they may not feel comfortable with asking or even know how to ask. There's a saying that goes, you don't know what you don't know. So it's
Mhm.
hard for people to understand something when they really don't even know where to start to tell you, I don't understand. They just know, I don't understand it. And so I tried to explain it to where when I first came into school psych, what did not understand, what language did not understand. So I kind of take it from that perspective. I also kind of, if I'm face to face with someone, I definitely try to look at the expression because the expression will show if they are very much understanding what you're saying and what you're not. A lot of times I'll explain one section and just kind of read it off and then come back and say, "Do you have any questions?" And you can kind of see them kind of flipping through the pages and kind of, got that look on their face. And you go, wait, okay, is there something that you don't understand? Let me explain to you in a better. What does that look like in everyday life? Because that's something that will help someone when you're trying to explain things. There's one thing to be able to say this child doesn't know how to interpret or how to read certain paragraphs to comprehend. It's another thing of what does that look like? So when you're able to explain that to someone in everyday terms and something that they might see in their house or in the classroom, it makes it easier for them to make that connection between what I just said, the jargon that I use, as well as what they see in the classroom or at home. So that's the kind of perspective that I take when it comes to explaining things. Like, what would I ask if I didn't really understand?
Yeah, and I think as I'm listening to you share this, I think I'm being struck by just the level of kind of like emotional intelligence that you need to have while you're providing all this technical. You're also observing, being aware of either their body language and what they're communicating to you,
Mhm.
or being able to kind of walk in their shoes while you're having to hold that professional role. So I don't, I really appreciate that perspective because I think sometimes as professionals in those, tables, yeah, sure, we've got our data and we're making sure that, we're communicating it, but we're so stuck in our field and our jargon and our way of, how this fits and how this makes sense to us. I know I've worked with families where sometimes they feel like they're being almost like a burden and they're like, I'm sorry for slowing you down, but I don't really understand anything you just said,
Yeah.
like to be able to walk that. And I think for you, you were even sharing like you're asking those questions. And there is an aspect of, I don't know if it's humility or just like maybe professionally, it's almost like a self confidence thing of like, I'm okay to not know everything because when I identify what I don't know, then I can ask and learn. And that gives me the opportunity to grow and do the same thing for my families as well. So I'm curious for you as a professional, like, how do you I guess, how do you make yourself feel okay with, I know I don't know everything. And so therefore, I'm going to ask those questions. And I'm probably asking similar questions to what my families are going to be asking too.
Well, I'm a lifelong learner. I like to learn things. It keeps it interesting for me. So one of the things I like to watch and observe people in their expert area. So when someone is explaining something to me, I'm intrigued because you can see how the energy changes when they are explaining something that's true to their heart. And to me, that's exciting for me because I'm like, oh, I'm getting the best stuff ever that I'm going to learn from that person. So for me, it's not about being comfortable. It's about I want to learn. I want to know. It's just another piece of information that's going to help me build my knowledge about pretty much everything that's going to help me do my job. And so that's the approach that I take. There is some shyness I still have initially, but once that person opens up and they start talking to me about it, I'm like, I'm all in. I want to ask those questions. I want to know. I'm not asking questions to, question whether you are an authority or expert in what you know. It. I want to know what you know. I want to know the things of how you do things in your world. And I feel like for me, that just helps me as a professional. It helps me give better insight for people. It helps me give a better perspective of how other people think because I may not have been exposed to certain things just because of where I'm from, how I grew up, just being exposed to different levels of education. There's that piece that you have to keep that inquisitive part of you going. And so I feel like when you're working with people in different departments, in different areas, working with parents and working with families, I think it makes everyone comfortable knowing that even as the expert in your field, that you don't know everything and that you have to ask questions. And I think it makes other people feel comfortable that they see the quote unquote expert asking questions of someone else. So it's a lot of different moving pieces and stuff like that. Some things are personal, some things are professional. But again, like you said, I've been in that position where I didn't know and I had to ask questions. So I know how that feels. I don't want to put that on anybody else. And then, if it's a parent or caregiver that's asking that question, I want them to be comfortable. I want them to ask questions. And usually, if I end the meeting, one of the last things I say is, "You have any more questions? Are you sure? Well, if you do, just email me because sometimes you get in the car or you get home or 2 days later, you're like, oh, I should have asked them about this, or you be reading something and it still doesn't make sense. It made sense then, but now you still can't pull it back out. So, I always make sure that they're available to ask me questions. And, you also building that parent or caregiver confidence up for their child when they get, as their child go through the IEP process or program to be able to advocate for their child because the main thing you want them to do is advocate with an understanding of what they're advocating for. So that's kind of the perspective I take.
Yeah, for sure. And I think you're really hinting at so many different things as you're just like, well, obviously, this makes so much sense. Like you just you know your stuff, you learn more stuff along the way, and then you communicate it in a way that you can kind of read people to know if it's sticking or not and make yourself available. So when they, have questions, they can follow back on that. And it sounds like and I know it from your practice too, like it's just how you operate. So I'm curious if you've ever been in any situations where maybe people thought that that's what they were doing, but you're kind of watching that communication and you're like, I don't think anyone understands what you actually just said. Or they're not maybe presenting it in a way that's like collaborative so that it's like, here's my piece, here's this information, and I'm moving on with, my life, as opposed to really then integrating it into, the planning around either a student or a program. So I'm curious, have you had any situations where you've either watched or been part of someone thinking that they were maybe demonstrating this high leverage practice, but they were kind of missing the mark?
Yes, I've been in that position a few times. Again, you have to kind of look at that person's personality, their professionalism, and things like that, and just how their mindset is. Some people, unfortunately, the ego gets in the way. And sometimes, when that happens, it becomes, I'm the expert. It's what I say. This is how I do it. And that's fine. I'm glad that you're an expert. But if you are turning people off or away because of how you present something, that's not helping anyone. And you're going to get more people kind of pushing back at you or not being compliant or not being compliant behind your back, which is even worse because you're thinking that, things are happening and it's not, and you don't develop that relationship. So it's a lot of relationship building, working around personalities. And you also have to kind of critique yourself. Did I do the right thing? Am I reading people? And if you're one of those people that can't really read the room, that's when you go to your colleagues and your other professionals and say, did that make sense? Do I need to clarify anything? And there's nothing wrong with, following up on an email. I had someone do that where they was like, well, the room didn't feel right when I left. That's the only thing they said to me. I was like, oh, they opened it up a little bit. And they sent the email out, just kind of clarify what they talked about. A situation that person really started to have some insight on how they presented things. But in some cases, it doesn't happen. So as long as it's somebody that a parent, caregiver, a teacher feels comfortable to coming to ask questions and things like that, I think that, it helps the whole team. And then you just have to have a conversation sometimes with that person. If they're receptive to it, that's great. If not, you just have to, take it with a grain of salt and know what you need to do the next time this person presents. Take your notes. And then if you have to just follow over people to make sure, if anybody has any questions. You just have to learn how to deal with everybody's personality and how they present things. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, the last part I want to make sure we hit on before we sign off for today is how do we know if we've got all these different people with all this different information and we're trying to pull it together? I mean, I've been in the room sometimes where someone's presenting information and drawing a conclusion from that data, and I'm kind of conflicted of going like, I don't know that that's what that says. So I'm curious for you, do you have any strategies for just making sure that the interpretation is actually in alignment with whatever it is that I am bringing to the table, right? We talk about the tools and communicating that well, when we are at the table so that we can collaborate effectively. But do you have any hints on like how to make sure that our even analysis is more locked into really what those needs of the students are?
Well, I think you have to really, again, listen to the whole team. There's data, and then how do you apply that data?
Mm,
So when you're interpreting things, and even if it's somebody that's saying, this is what it is, this is how it should be, and this is the way, what the data is saying, there's a realism behind that. And you have to understand that yes, your child in a silo will be able to do these things based on the data. However, in a classroom with 15 kids, 10 kids, 10 kids and everybody has their own behaviors, it's going to be difficult for that person. So what's the realism behind it? And I think that has to be a question that needs to be asked in the classroom. Yes, we can have this beautiful IEP, this beautiful programming, but how do we really work with the student and give them the things that they need on a daily basis in a very realistic manner? Yes, the data says this, but how do we implement this realistically? If you have something that's like an in-home program or you want a parent to complete something at home, if they got 5 other siblings, mom works or dad works at night, or there's no extended family, the parents getting home or the caregivers getting home at 10 o'clock, we can't realistically say, okay, sit down and do homework. This kids probably should be asleep. So what kind of workarounds do we have? What other avenues do we have to work with them? Is something like an after school program that we could use? So we have to explore different avenues. We have to be realistic about what the child needs, as well as what the data is saying that the child needs, and how do we find a compromise for that? So again, you just have to make sure you have your listening ears on, and you have to think outside the box in order to do the right thing.
Yeah, thank you for bringing forward context, right? Like, I think sometimes we can get so stuck in the weeds on the tools and then making sure that we run the right tools to collect the right data to say the right things that sometimes we forget to analyze it within the context, right? Like, so what is actually going on in that classroom? What is actually going on in that, student's life, home life, all the things, right? And then are we able to bring that into how we are planning for, what that kid needs, what that classroom or that program needs. So thank you for always being mindful of that. I know you think like you just operate in that reality without even thinking about it. So thank you for making sure you toss that in here at the end. Yeah, thank you so much. I know this is a really, really big one. This conversation could go on much longer than what we're doing today, just because there are so many little bits and pieces that are actually quite large players. So that's what the back half of this episode is for. If you're curious for more, keep listening to the technical side. But yes, thank you for your time today, Lathyrelle.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Working in a self-contained, alternative education, therapeutic, or correctional classroom? Project Onward is a 6-strand cohort-based project designed to help you build a strong, structured program for complex students who need extra specialized support. You'll get practical tools to set up clear routines, strengthen engagement, manage behavior, and plan instruction that actually fits the splintered needs of your students. By the end, you'll walk away with a complete, ready-to-use program that has been adapted to your local needs. Led by Heather Volchko, Lathyrelle Isler, Jonathan Barbario, and Manny Wasias, Project Onward blends proven strategies with vetted experience, helping you move forward with confidence. If you're creating something from the ground up, or looking to update what you've got, this project gives you the structure and clarity to do it well. If you support students with low-incident needs, Project Base helps you design a consistent classroom built just for them. And if you're working in general ed or resource settings with behavioral challenges, Project Thrive gives you the tools to work with, not against, the flow of your classroom. Visit university.thresholdlearning.org to meet the team and get started today. Let's move onward, together.
In the context of the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, or IDEA, The collaborative effort of a dedicated team plays a pivotal role in shaping the educational journey of students with disabilities. At the heart of this process is the development of the Individualized Education Program, or IEP, which relies heavily on the expertise of a team comprised of both key professionals and family members. This team works together to craft an IEP that is tailored to the unique needs of each student, ensuring that their educational experience is both personalized and effective. For special education teachers, this means engaging deeply with assessment information to understand each student's strengths and needs. They are not just passive participants, but active collaborators, using their insights to help create an educational plan that maximizes student progress. Their role extends beyond the initial development of the IEP. It includes the ongoing implementation and evaluation of the plan. This requires a clear and consistent communication of assessment results to all team members, including other teachers, staff, and families. A crucial aspect of this communication is making assessment information accessible and understandable. It's not uncommon for parents to feel overwhelmed during IEP meetings, often struggling to grasp the information being presented. By involving parents early in the assessment process, we help demystify these results and integrate their cultural and linguistic contexts, which is essential given that students from diverse backgrounds are disproportionately represented in special education. When families are well informed and actively involved, they can better appreciate the purpose of assessments and how the data is used to set goals and tailor supports. This involvement not only enhances their understanding, but also fosters a respectful partnership between families and the educational team. Sharing assessment data with parents before meetings allows them to prepare questions and engage more meaningfully, easing their anxiety and helping them feel more in control of the process. Moreover, special education teachers often find themselves advocating for families during team meetings, ensuring that assessment data is presented in a clear and comprehensible way. They also facilitate discussions that help the team address any concerns and identify necessary supports. The ongoing dialogue around assessment results and their implications is critical, as it informs adjustments to instruction and ensures that the educational interventions are effective. In essence, special education teachers are central to ensuring that the IEP process is both inclusive and responsive, with a clear focus on maximizing each student's educational opportunities through effective communication and collaboration. When it comes to assessment data, a key challenge is translating that information into something actionable and understandable for everyone involved in a student's education. This aspect of the process is deeply interconnected with several high leverage practices, specifically those focusing on collaboration. The goal here is to make sure that every piece of data, whether it's about a student's strengths, needs, or current performance levels, is accessible and clear to all stakeholders. A frequent hurdle in this process is the tendency for assessment reports to be loaded with jargon and technical language that can obscure the real meaning. If stakeholders cannot fully grasp the data, their ability to contribute effectively to the student's educational planning is compromised. This is where the expertise of a special educator becomes crucial. They need to craft communication strategies that break down complex information into digestible, understandable terms. When the entire team has a clear and accurate understanding of the assessment results, they are better equipped to make valuable contributions to developing the individualized education program. Effective communication ensures that everyone is on the same page, which is essential for crafting an educational plan that truly supports the student's growth and success. Teachers who effectively interpret and communicate assessment information gather and interpret assessment results and communicate assessment results to develop IEPs. Effective teachers excel in interpreting and communicating assessment information by taking a thoughtful, organized approach. A crucial part of this process involves preparing and reviewing assessment data well in advance of an IEP meeting. This early preparation allows teachers to sift through the information, identify and highlight the key findings that reveal both the strengths and needs of their students. When analyzing assessment results, it's important to place them in context, not just in relation to the student's past performance, but also alongside their peers. This perspective helps in understanding where a student stands relative to others at their grade level. Additionally, For students from culturally and linguistically diverse backgrounds, teachers must consider how language and cultural factors might influence the interpretation of these results. By synthesizing data from various sources, teachers can create a comprehensive overview of each student's strengths and needs. This synthesis then informs decisions about appropriate accommodations, modifications, and grading practices. The goal is to ensure that the educational plan reflects a nuanced understanding of each student's unique profile, leading to more effective and individualized support. In the realm of interpreting and communicating assessment information, teachers play a pivotal role in shaping effective IEPs. To ensure that all key stakeholders, including families, are well informed, it's essential to distill the assessment data into a clear, comprehensive summary. This might take the form of a summary sheet, guide, or a table that organizes the data in an easily digestible format. Preparing this summary in advance of the IEP meeting is crucial, as it gives team members the opportunity to thoroughly review and reflect on the results before they come together. This preparation time sets the stage for meaningful discussions during the meeting, allowing for collaborative problem solving and a shared understanding of the students' needs and strengths. Once the IEP is in place, the collaboration doesn't stop. Teachers need to work closely with general education colleagues and other key stakeholders to continuously monitor how the student responds to the instructional plans across different settings. This ongoing dialogue ensures that the plan remains effective and responsive to the students' evolving needs. For school leaders aiming to support their teachers effectively, it's crucial to focus on a few key areas, starting by providing clear guidance and models on how to communicate assessment results to families and other collaborators. This ensures that teachers have a concrete understanding of how to present this information in a way that is accessible and meaningful. Feedback and coaching are also vital. Offering constructive input on how educators can improve the clarity of their reports helps them tailor their communication to different audiences. This, in turn, fosters better collaboration and understanding among all parties involved. Professional development plays a significant role too. Providing instruction and resources on monitoring student progress with IEPs, as well as how to utilize assessment data within tiered support systems, like Response to Intervention, RTI, or Multi-Tiered System of Supports, MTSS, equips teachers with the tools they need to support their students effectively. Creating and maintaining appropriate structure and supports is essential. Ensure that both general and special education teachers, along with related service personnel, have access to the necessary resources to deliver their services. Additionally, establishing clear procedures, defined roles, and well-organized teams promotes smooth operation and clarity in the delivery of services. Fostering an inclusive culture is also important. Encourage all staff members to take collective responsibility for every student's progress. Lastly, staying informed about student progress helps empower both staff and families to collaborate effectively, ultimately enhancing the educational experience for students. Policy outlines the essential roles and considerations for IEP teams when assessing and interpreting results for culturally and linguistically diverse students. Yet, each IEP team and each student's assessment data bring unique characteristics and nuances to the table. In this context, the special education teacher is crucial in guiding the entire team through the complexities of assessment data. This data forms the bedrock upon which appropriate educational services are built. The special education teacher's role goes beyond just presenting data. It's about fostering a deep understanding among team members. Effective communication of assessment results is key to developing and implementing IEPs that truly support students with disabilities. By continuously sharing and discussing these results, the team ensures that the IEPs are not only well-informed, but also effective in achieving positive outcomes for each student. We hope you enjoyed this week's episode. Join us next week when Heather sits down with our leadership coach for building leaders, Mary Mangione, to talk about our next high leverage practice.
Hey, before you jump back into your busy life, consider dropping a like and follow @ThresholdLearningTLC on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. And if you like our show, share the podcast with your colleagues. A personal recommendation is by far the best way to promote the podcast. Let them know that they can listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere else that they catch their podcast. Just be sure to leave a rating and review on your favorite platform. You can email us at info@thresholdlearning.org. We always enjoy connecting with fellow educators and champions for educational justice. You can find everything you're looking for at thresholdlearning.org. See you there. Attention educators pursuing behavior analysis certification and universities preparing them for success. Supervision with TLC offers 100% remote fieldwork supervision designed specifically for school-based professionals. Educators can earn their hours right in their schools without leaving their classroom, all while being supported by experienced BCBAs who understand the realities of education. With month-to-month scheduling, affordable rates, and both live video and asynchronous chat, our fieldwork supervision model is designed to fit into your life, not the other way around. We also invite universities to enhance their graduate programs in partnership with our team of practicing school-based BCBAs. Our fieldwork supervision model keeps students on track for certification by helping them connect their practice to all exam domains so that they can confidently pass the exam. Explore more at university.thresholdlearning.org/supervision or email supervision@thresholdlearning.org to connect. Supervision with TLC, where educators grow into behavior analysts.